Okay guys, I'm going to do some notes here on adding, subtracting rational expressions. The reason that we did the first review on fractions was that there is a difference between adding, subtracting fractions and multiplying and dividing. Most of you have done the multiplication division already, and we just simplified, we multiplied straight across and got our answers. The difference here is this right here. We need to have a least common denominator, LCD. That's the smallest number that both denominators will go into, and we need to find that first. Once we find it, then we're going to adjust, if we need to, our fractions so that both denominators are the same. Then we keep our denominator and we simply add straight across. Okay, so if we look at number 1 right here, we look at our denominators first. We have 3. Obviously, it's already the same. We don't have to change anything. I'm going to keep my denominator of 3, and I'm going to simply add on the top. If they had been numbers, like a 2 or something else, I could have added. We can't put x and 5 together. We can put parentheses around it if we want to think about it like that, but we can't simplify. We're not changing anything else. That is your answer. Okay, x plus 5 over 3. So if the denominator is already the same, we simply leave it and we add the top. On number 2, again, this is what we want to look at first. What about our denominators? Okay, well, these are the same. So again, I already have common denominator, so I don't have to worry about this yet. They're already the same. So keep it. And then combine like terms on the top. We can do this in 2 steps if you want to. We can say this is x minus 3 minus 5. That's all over the same thing. Then if we can simplify, then we're going to simplify with combining our like terms right here. So this is going to become x minus 8 over 2x. And that's our answer. Remember, we cannot simplify right here because this is connected. And so we can't say, oh, well, 2 goes into 8, or I can cancel off my x. We cannot cancel anything off over here. You cannot simplify anything else. That is your answer. Okay, so number 3. Again, I'm looking at my denominator. We've got an expression here. They're both x minus 2. So I'm just going to keep x minus 2. And I'm going to combine the top. This one's adding all of that together on the top. So x plus x is 2x plus 3. And all of it's over x minus 2. And again, we cannot take away this x. We can't do anything with the 2. This is simplified as far as it can be. Okay, we're done. There's our answer. So off the first 3 of these, if we have a common denominator already, then it makes it easy. Keep the bottom, either add or subtract the top, combining like terms. If we don't have a common denominator, then we need to either factor or multiply maybe, because we need to find our least common denominator. The reason it says factor each denominator if possible is because it makes it much easier to find that common denominator. So let's look at a couple of examples, but keep this in mind. Go back to this each time. This step number 4, when it says add or subtract the numerators, always keep your denominator the same. Okay, we do not add our denominators. Okay, so look at number 4. X minus 3 over 2 minus 3/4. We look at our denominators. So if I were to say, what's the smallest number that both of those go into, then we would say, okay, well, 4 goes into 4 and 2 goes into 4. So I'm going to write it over here to the edge that my least common denominator is 4. So I want both fractions to have 4 on the bottom. This one already had a 4, so I'm not going to change anything. Okay, do not change. This is one of the mistakes that's made, is that they do start multiplying or something. If it's already there, don't change it. This one, however, has 2 on the bottom. So let's think. What are we going to multiply by 2 to get 4? We're going to multiply by 2. Well, if I multiply the bottom by 2, I have to multiply the top by 2. So up here I have 2 times x minus 3. I want to see this step. Some of you didn't show your work on the multiplying and dividing. And some of that you could see, some of it you couldn't. Here, it's going to be extremely important that you show your work. So I want to see that you multiplied 2 on top and bottom. Now I have the same denominator. So I'm going to keep the 4. And I'm going to write this on the top. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 3 is 6. And then we have minus 3. So if I simplify, I get 2x minus 9 over 4. And this is my simplified answer. So this is where we started on 1, 2, and 3. We already had a common denominator. Here, I didn't have a common denominator, so the first thing I had to do was find that the smallest thing that they both go into is 4. Okay, so number 5. Look at our denominators. See, okay, what's the smallest thing they both go into? Well, this one has 3x, this one just has an x. So if this fraction over here, if this had a 3x on the bottom, they would be the same. So let's write both of our fractions as 3x on the bottom. That's my least common denominator, is 3x. Don't change the first one. It already has a 3x on bottom, so we're just going to keep it. But over here, I need to multiply by 3 because I want this to be 3x. Well, if I multiply on the bottom, just like we did when we did our review of fractions, you have to do the same thing on the top. So 5 times 3 is 15. So let's write it as one fraction. So I'm going to get 3x's on the bottom. I have 2 plus 15 on top, which gives me 17 over 3x. And there's my answer. Okay, number 6. This is where we need to factor, because if you're looking at this, some of you may see that if I multiply by 2, I would get 2x minus 4. But let's go ahead and factor this. If I factor this into, I'm going to keep the first one, x minus 2. But this one I want to factor the bottom. We can take a 2 out, and we're left with 3 over 2 times x minus 2. So the only thing I did is I factored the denominator. Okay, I factored the denominator. It's the only change I made. So from there to there. Now we can see that these are almost the same if this one had a 2. So my least common denominator is going to be 2 times x minus 2. So we're going to keep the second fraction just like it is. But this one only has x minus 2. So I need to multiply this by 2 on top and bottom. I put the parentheses around it because that's stuck together anytime we have two or have a plus or minus. And so let's see what we get. 2 times 4 is 8. All of this is going to be over 2x minus 2. We only write it one time. Like once I get a common denominator, this is my common denominator. And when we're, sorry, I can't spell. When we're adding, we're going to keep our common denominator. And then we're going to add the top. So 2 times 4 gives me 8. Plus 3. So I get 11 over 2 times x minus 2. Okay, so this is what I want you guys to do. I want you to take these notes and I want you to work just 1 through 6 on the first page of the assignment. So I'm going to show it to you here. The one that says adding, subtracting rational expressions. I want you to do 1 through 6 on here using these notes. And then I'm going to do another video that will show us some of the ones that get a little bit more complicated. But especially 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. 5 takes a little bit more. But 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 we should be able to do just with using what we've done right here. Okay, if you have questions, email me and we will do a Zoom meeting one day next week.